going to be having a virtual tour outside today, looking at different plants that you can provide for bees, as well as looking inside a beehive, talking about bee-friendly water and things that we can do, not just to help honeybees, but all of our pollinators. It's important. So thank you for joining me today. I'm really blessed to be at a client's house. She has a beautiful garden and has opened it up for me today to be able to share with you. So you'll see as we wander around. And I'm actually going to turn the camera around and show you as we walk around, and I'll keep talking. But I just wanted to say that, you know, we're really lucky here in Australia in that our honeybees are actually in really good health. It's in other parts of the world that they have the varroa mite. So they're struggling with colony collapse disorder. But, you know, here in Australia, we need to be mindful of that and look after, as I said, our natural pollinators as well. So I want to share with you things that you can do, besides being a beekeeper, things that you can do at home to help all of our pollinators. So I'm just going to turn the camera around. Okay, so here we are. Now we're looking at some daisies, and you can even see, if I come in close, there's even little insects on the daisies. Some of them are flies, but there's a myriad. Oh, here we go. Here's a very tiny, eeny-weeny little insect on here. So they come and feed on the nectar. So you'd be amazed at the different insects you have. These daisies are also really good for the bees. And over here, all of these yellow things here, you consider them a weed? Yes, they are. They're called cape weeds. And we all used to make daisy chains with them as children. And look, oh, if I can focus in. No, I just saw a hoverfly. We might be able to get it. There's a few hoverflies actually hanging around. No, it keeps going as I move off. So I can see hoverflies. You've got the white butterflies flying around. So the cape weed is also a very important weed. It's full of pollen, and pollen is the protein that the bees need to form new bee babies. Thistles, I think, give a little bit of nectar. So, you know, not weeding the garden in springtime can be, there's some more cape weed. Not weeding the garden in springtime, as well as be a great excuse, but it's a really good resource as the bees come out of winter to be able to help them. Now we're just walking into this beautiful garden, and I want to show you over here, there's a glorious gum tree that's in flower. It's like a weeping gum. And I see a butterfly hanging around, and you'll be able to see, I don't know if you can see a bee, so there's one buzzing around. It's just gone into that flower under there. And she'll be sucking on the nectar. There she is, burying herself right deep down inside the flower. And the longer they stay on the flower, you know that they've got nectar. So gums are actually a great source of nectar and pollen. And also, I've just seen a honey eater bird as well. So gum trees, there's a lot of Australian natives that are great. And that's why the European honeybee has adapted to our climate so well. But unfortunately, sometimes those European honeybees, if they're allowed to swarm, and now is swarming season, they become what we call feral bees, and they can actually have a negative impact against some of our native pollinators. So we want to, if you see a swarm, there is a website called swarmpatrol.com, so don't panic with a swarm, but you can log the swarm, and once we're out of COVID, But at the moment, only business people can collect swarms. But if you log it on swarmpatrol.com, then a local beekeeper in your area will be able to come and collect that swarm for you rather than get them destroyed. So the sooner they can be collected before they go into someone's wall or compost bin or speakers, they'll find any cavity to live in. It's important if we can get those bees out of the environment and back into a hive. That's better for our natural pollinators. Now, I've just seen another very common weed which helps the bees, and this is soursop. And soursops have really good nectar. So you've got the soursop nectar and the cape weed that comes out this time of year, and the bees, there's another patch over there, and the bees really take off. It provides them with a lot of food, and they really take off. Obviously, one of our common ones is look at all of the insects on here right now. It's the white butterflies, the white cabbage moth, and if I come in here, you'll see there's a bee feeding at the moment. And there's even a little dragonfly. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the dragonfly there on the stalk? So, you know, 3 types of insects just right there. This is a magnificent patch of lavender. This Nada has done an amazing job of her garden. But look, oh, look, there's an actual butterfly. I don't know the name of that one, but it's definitely different to the, look at them. They're having so much fun, having their morning feed, drinking the nectar, and pollinating. As they're drinking, they're pollinating. So the bees especially, they have little hairs on them, and the pollen attaches to their hairs. When they go from flower to flower, that's how they then spread the pollen around. And pollination is really important because some plants, they need pollen from one plant to a completely same kind of plant, but different plant. So it has to be transferred from one area to another. And it's actually the bees that help with that. Here's something else just coming into flower. So once that pops, then there'll be insects all over that. Let's walk over this way. What else we got? Another one. Any brachia. So this is canola, mustard weed, broccoli, cauliflower. And again, the bees absolutely love this. Those big fields of canola have lots and lots of nectar and also some pollen, and again provide very, very good food. You can see there's heaps of bees on here right now. So many of them. They are having a great time on these little canola flowers. Morning time's a great time for them to feed. Whoops. Oops, they're quite heavy. The flowers kind of droop there as they land on them. So that's another one. Don't pull out your mustard weed. Believe it or not, they really help the bees. What else have we got in here? Magnificent. Look at this garden. It's just absolutely magnificent. I'm not sure what this is, but oh, look, here's a hoverfly. You may see it. I don't know if you saw that. Look, here it is. Can you see that? It's on the white flower. So that a hoverfly kind of looks like a bee, but it's a native Australian fly. And they hover in the air. And believe it or not, they actually travel all the way over to Tasmania as part of their breeding. Now this is a bitter. It's a bitter salad leaf. But the bees also like that. Sorry, I don't know its name. No, I don't know its name. But the bees like that one. This is her veggie garden. not much else in flower here at the moment, but as I said, any of the Brexia are. And the bees also like, broad beans. If your broad beans are in flower at the moment, whoops, let's go back to me. Here we go. Broad beans are in flower at the moment. Bees like that. I've never seen many bees on the geranium. And of course, any fruit trees. So we'll go over here. There's some mowing going on. Berries. So we've got a whole lot of berries done, not in flower yet, but any berries. So blueberries, raspberries, berries. There's another little daisy. Anana does a lot of companion planting. So this is her orchard here. And the apples are just starting to come into flower. So I don't know if we'll see any bees on the apples. Oh, yeah, there's a bee. Oh, yeah, look, here we go. The bees are on the apples as well. So she'll get plenty of fruit this year from the bees. But she does a lot of companion flowering. So we've got flowers in amongst here, companion planting, sorry, to help with pest control. So another really important thing is the broad beans. I don't know if we'll see any on the broad beans. There's some other kind of insect, but we've got broad beans there. So yes, really important to try and not use pesticides. And the companion planting actually helps with that. So you can use natural remedies. Oops, back to me again. There we go. You can use natural remedies. See, Nada was telling me that she likes to make a chili spray to put on the bee, on the plant. So the chili spray is non-toxic for the environment, not using any chemicals, but it will deter things like ants and aphids and that sort of thing. So there are many natural alternatives if you just look around. So I really urge you to try and not use pesticides where you can, or even herbicides. Another way to get rid of weeds, and please do it when they're not flowering, is to pour boiling water on them. That will help them. So food is important for our pollinators, not poisoning them, leaving the weeds. And the other thing I want to talk about is water. Believe it or not, you need some bee-friendly or insect-friendly water, because they will often drown if you've got just a big expanse of water that just sits there. And so something like this is called duckweed, and it provides a place for the animals to land so that they can come and drink. And the great thing about this duckweed is that the chickens really love it as well. So as it grows and takes up the space, you can feed it to your chooks and they'll gobble it up. One thing's important though is to not get it in the waterways, because it really is quite invasive. So you really want to just keep it in a container. All right, I've got some other things to talk about. How are we going for time there, Joanne?
10:20.
Perfect. All right. So before we go into some quick questions, I want to show you a few other things. So here, this here is a way that you can provide water for the insects. So this is a pet watering container, and you would fill this up with water in here. And here I just bought some pebbles and marbles from $2 shops or Kmart. And so again, this gives a place for the bees to land, and they can sort of burrow down in amongst the pebbles and the rocks and access the water. So that's another alternative. Or even a container with some bricks in it, just somewhere for them to land. Talking about food for bees, we've obviously got the good old sunflower. is another one that they love. You can see the bees on there. Bergamot, and you might see the butterfly up the top there on the packet. So if you're at a nursery looking for seeds, and if you look for the butterfly, then it will tell you that it's good for pollinators. So bergamot is another good one. And this is a big favourite of the bees, is borage. And again, it's got that symbol that attracts pollinators. So borage, they love the blue and purple flowers. Obviously, the classic we already looked at was the lavender. And there's many different styles of lavender. There's white and pink and purple. But lavender is one of their favourites. And this one, again, it's got the symbol that says pollinator, a beneficial insect mix garden. So you just sprinkle that around, promotes natural biodiversity, and it reduces pests, believe it or not. So it will get the beneficial insects around. And another one that's one of their favourites. Now this is for eating, but if you actually let it grow, clover will eventually flower. So red and white clover, and it provides really good nectar for the bees. So clover is one that you can provide for them. And obviously, you know, I'm a beekeeper and I'm here to, I deal with honeybees, but you can also provide homes for our native bees. So providing an insect hotel, and they can be quite simple to make. So this one is made out of an old can. And in here, you can actually remove these pieces, which is beneficial because it means you can clean it out every now and again. So some of them are paper straws, bits of bamboo. You can do cardboard rolls. Here's a more advanced one, which is made out of some wood. But again, you've got the removable tubes inside. They want long tubes that they can get into. And if you are interested in finding out more about our native pollinators, there's a lady by the name of Kit Prendergast in Western Australia, and she has a Facebook page called Bees in the Bird, and she's the expert, one of the experts on native bees in Australia, and she has a great book which is very helpful because there are some hotels that are not beneficial. So it's actually, you're better off actually making your own because a lot of the ones from the shop are actually not designed in a way that help the insects. Now, other plants, let's just go back to that for a minute. Let's have a look. We've got lavender, catnip, sage, thyme, fennel, borage. Geranium is good for them. We've also got in here lavender, lemon balm, oregano, peppermint, grevillea. Grevillea is a really big one. Any of the berries, I mentioned them. Apples, buckwheat, believe it or not. Sage, banksia, bottle brush is another one. And as I said, all of the gums are really good.
Carmel?
Yes.
Sorry, what's Kit's surname?
Prendergast.
Prendergast.
Prendergast with a G. Prendergast.
Oh.
Yeah. Very, very interesting lady.
Yes.
Now,
someone's just asked, so I've just put that into the chat so that they can look that up. So
they can look her up. Yes, yep. She's worth looking up. There's also another website called AussieBees.net, which is about native Australian bees as well. So if you think you would be interested in becoming a beekeeper, then this would be the place to start, is looking on the Culture Victoria website. And there is a flyer called "Do you keep bees or are you interested in keeping bees?" And a local bee group in our area, in the western suburbs of Melbourne, is called Werribee, and we actually just posted this on our site. So we've got a lot of good information on our site. So again, it's called "Do you keep bees or are you interested in keeping bees?" And if you go to the Agriculture Victoria website and just search bees, there's a whole section there to get you started. And one of the things is there are rules that I have to follow. So there's a biosecurity code and an apiary code. So as a beekeeper, there are rules that we need to follow. But if anyone is interested in becoming a beekeeper, I've put together this basic intro to beekeeping. So if you want to email Joanne, I'm happy to pass that document on and send that out to people. And it has really good information about the steps that you would take if you wanted to become a beekeeper. So I'm going to open it up to some questions about plants for now. And then we'll get into looking into the bees. Do we have any questions?
If people have got questions, if you just unmute yourself and then you can ask Carmel about it. I've just put up the Werribee's Facebook page in the chat.
Okay.
And the one for the swarm, that was swarmpatrol.com? Okay, so...
Yes, swarmpatrol.com, exactly.
Okay, no worries. You must have provided lots of information. Everyone's just taking it all in.
Yeah, they're all quiet. No questions. All right. Well, if we've got no questions, we might as well get into the beehive. How does that sound? So let's walk over. Oh, and I've got another little tip for you, people. Let me turn this around. You know how I was talking about it's really important to not use pesticides? Another way, so this plant with the white flowers, I don't know if you can see that, it's quite invasive here. It's a bit of a weed. We've never seen insects on it. And so what Nada does is she puts all this black plastic over it, and that actually then kills the weeds off. So again, another natural way of getting rid of weeds without having to use chemicals. So there you go. All right, so here we are. We've actually got 5 hives here. Let me turn my camera around again. Here we go. And Nada has grandchildren. So what they've done here is they've created an enclosure for the bees because they do keep quite active. And 3 of the hives that were originally here, I inherited those hives. They were already here. And the bees were a bit grumpy. I'm in the process of requeening them so that they become not so grumpy. And so Nada was concerned about the safety of her grandchildren. So they've created this enclosure, which is beautiful because it lets the sunlight in, but it directs the flight path of the bees up and out over the top. So they're way over our heads. So if you are thinking of becoming a beekeeper and you're worried about the space, then this is a good way to a flow hive. I thought you might like to see a flow hive as opposed to a regular Langstroth. So the flow hive has a special box on the top where you harvest the honey, but with the flow hive, you actually have to take the honey out the regular way. Now, I'm going to be handing my phone over to Nicholas so he can do the filming. But I've just realised, do you want some gloves, Nicholas? Sorry? You want to, Jonathan, sorry, Jonathan, not Nicholas. You want some gloves. Yep, so they'll be over in the box if you want to grab them. Okay, so you can see on a beautiful day like today, the bees are extremely busy. But I'm going to come in here while Jonathan is getting his gloves, and I'm going to open up, and you can see there they are inside, and they built a little bit of comb on the window there, but they are busy filling that up with nectar. You might be able to see where the holes are empty and where they put the shiny liquid. Oh, and here's one dragging a dead drone out. So that bee's being an undertaker. They take out the dead drones. So we'll take out, see there he is dragging out the dead drones. So I did put some, in springtime you get a lot of drones, and I did put some drones up the top here. And I need to shake these frames out to get the drones out. And then this is the front door where they come and go. So very busy today. These yellow, more yellow coloured bees, they have got Italian, golden Italian in them. And they're quite gentle. And then over here is my smoker. So I'm going to get the smoker lit up. And I'll just go over the materials I use. So I have a metal bucket for safety and water to put it out afterwards. This is my hive tool that I'll be using to open the hive up. And then what I use inside the smoker is I've got pine shavings. I've got a bit of lavender, dried lavender, which helps to calm down me and the bees. And then I've got paper bark. And I also use a bit of cardboard to get it lit. So any of those are a good combination. So I'm going to hand this over to Jonathan now. And I'm going to put my head on. So let me get my head on. Oops, daisy. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is light the smoker. So I've got a little bit of fuel in there. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. All right, so the first thing is getting a good fire going. So we're going to get a good fire going in there. Give it a bit of air. Lighting the smoker is a skill all in its own. You want to be patient when you start the smoker. You don't want to rush this because you want to end up with the embers down the bottom just smouldering away. And obviously we need to be mindful of fire conditions. All right, so I've got a good fire going in there now. I'm going to start adding more fuel. And once you've got the embers going, that's a good amount of smoke we've got going on there. So we'll pop all of that in. And that will keep going all day. You can just pop it up from the top. Give it some air. Well, so what the smoke does is the smoke, it masks our smell and the other smells from the bees, because the bees are deaf, they can't hear and they can't see very well, but they've got a very keen sense of smell. So it just dampens all the smells a bit so they're not so triggered by us. And also it puts them more in an alert because they think that there might be a fire coming, so they're more worried about feeding just in case they need to escape. And then the lavender sort of calms them down, but they go more into a feeding mode than worrying about what we are doing. What else was I going to say? No, it slipped my mind. All right, so let's open up the hive. We're going to go over here. So I just like to let them know that I'm coming. And the thing about bees is you want to move nice and slowly around the bees. It's kind of like a form of Tai Chi. So if you, oh, that was what I was going to say, is don't wear strong hairspray or aftershaves or perfume or anything because of their sense of smell. Quite often they can be triggered by that. So if you find that bees don't like you, it might be because of something that you're wearing. But it's important to stay calm around the bees because when we get frightened, our chemicals change, so they can smell our adrenaline, basically like bees, like dogs. So if you're calm around the bees and you're in a loving space and you move slowly around the bees, then the bees are going to respond to you in a more gentle manner. So I just tell them that I'm coming at the front door. And then I'm going to put some under the roof as well. I'll just take the roof off. Come on, roof. Here we go. And they create this stuff called propolis, so they stick everything down, which is where the hive tool comes in handy. And you'll notice I'm not wearing gloves because these girls are very gentle. So at this time of year, they're building a lot. There's so much food around. And I won't today, but normally I would clean all of that up. But as you can see, they're just busy working. They're not so concerned about me. I can give them a little pat there. Normally, I'll only get stung if I do something really silly. I'm just going to pop that down on the ground. All right, so it's really important in springtime, down in the brood chamber where the babies are, there are pests and diseases that do come into hives sometimes. So to keep a hive healthy, we want to move the old frames up and out of the hive. So in the top here, if you come a bit closer, Jonathan, I've got, these are the flow frames here, and these are some old frames which the bees are now filling up with honey. And then I can take them out of the hive and harvest the honey, put fresh foundation on, and then they can go back down into the brood area. So we're going to get one of those frames out. The smoke will help to move the bees out the way so that I can get a frame out without hurting too many bees. I'm just going to make a little bit of room for myself here. And I use the hive tool. Might go this way. All right, so this did have babies in it originally, and then the girls have been busy now filling it up with honey instead. So I'll just gently get that out. There we go. So down here where it's darker, that used to have babies. They've all hatched out, and now they're filling that all up with the shiny stuff is nectar. And then what they do is the nectar, they use their wings and they fan and evaporate about 85% of the water out because nectar will ferment. But when the nectar has enough water evaporated out of it, it turns into honey, and when the honey's ready, they put cappings on it. So me as a beekeeper, I want to wait until this frame is pretty much all capped, and then I know that the honey is ready and that the honey's never ever going to go off. So this side's a little more ready. So we'll just pop this one down on the ground. And now I can get the other frames out. All right, here's one that's almost ready to go. So when the when it becomes sugared, these are the older frames that we want to get out. Quite often this comb turns black, but as you can see now, that's almost fully capped. So that would be a frame that we can almost take out. Yep, that one's pretty much ready to go. Except down the bottom here, these are some boys. Oh, look here. This is a boy bee, and he's just hatching. Here he comes. Let's help him out. Come on, mate. Out you come. Out you come. You can do it. You can do it. There we go. So this is a boy bee. And like all bees, down he goes. This is a boy bee. And this is another boy bee. They don't have stingers. The boy bees don't have stingers. And they have very big eyes. And they don't do any work inside the hive. They get cleaned and they get fed. And then they go out looking for new queens to mate with. So their role is about making more bees and helping the bee population continue. So, but at winter time, they might get a pretty cushy life now, but at winter time, they also get kicked out of the hive. And you really don't want too many drones inside the hive. There's another one. We'll put you down at the front door. You don't want too many drones inside the hive because they don't do any work, basically. It's good to have some, but you don't want too many, which is why when you've got drone combs, I bring it up to the top here. So there's just a few left still hatching. All right, let's get out the flow frame so you can see one of those. The flow frames are designed differently. So this is a flow frame. What I'm going to do to this one, now this is not going to hurt the bees. I'm just going to shake the bees so that we can see what they're doing on their better. There we go. Okay, so this is the flow frame here. Here they haven't filled it up yet. Here they're starting to put nectar. And at the back here, there's two little holes, and there's a very long key, and the long key goes in there. It goes all the way down, and when you turn the key, what it does is you've got the cells where they put the honey into, and when you turn the key, they go from like this to like that. And so then the honey can literally flow down out of the frame, and it flows out of here. So you take that out, and there's a little tube that goes in there, and the honey flows out of the frame. Then when you've finished, you put the key in the top, and you turn the key again, and then the cells will go from that S shape, and they'll go back up into the hexagon shape. So a flow hive is great in that it makes harvesting the honey much easier. However, you do still need to keep the bees, not just have them. You do still need to make sure you manage pests and diseases. You need to make sure that you're doing swarm prevention and keep the hive healthy. So you do still need to look inside the hive. And so that's what we're going to do in a minute, is we'll go down to where the babies are, and we'll see whether there's any queen cells or anything that could be causing problems. But that's basically how the flow frames work. So we'll put this back in. This isn't ready yet, but they're getting there. And this box would currently be weighing, I put that in the wrong way. Let's turn it around. This box has currently got probably about 15 kilos of honey in it, plus the frames and the wood would be about 25 kilos in weight. So beekeeping does have some heavy lifting. involved. Again, I don't want to hurt the bees, so I'm going to shake them off. And now I can get the frame back in there without squashing too many bees. I'll just clear them out the way. And we're moving slowly, slowly, just putting that frame back inside the hive. There we go. Okay. Oh, and this stuff here, this is called propolis. And this is what they collect from, it's like the sap and the resin from trees. And they use it as a glue to patch up any wind, any drafts inside their hive. But it's also a medicine. It's antibacterial, antifungal, and it's a really good medicine for us humans as well. So propolis is very valuable as another product that comes out of hives. All right, let's get the top box on. This top box where the honey is called a super. And it's going to be heavy. All right, I'm going to put this down here. Yeah. Okay. The next thing we've got, oh look, here we go. Here's all the drones that have hatched. Now the drones can't fit through the queen excluder, so I'm going to shake those drones off and they can go back in the front door. Because they want to get out to find the queen. So we'll put them at the front door. There you go, boys. So the queen excluder stops the queen from being able to get through. So that's where you just have honey up the top. And then the babies are down in this area. So let's have a look at the babies. Now you can see this was a brand new frame that I put in not so long ago. And it's important, you want to give the queen space to lay. Because if she runs out of room, that's when they start to swarm. Because it's springtime, it's reproduction time, everything's expanding. All right, here we go. So this started out just as a sheet of, it was like flat wax. There weren't any it's called a sheet of foundation, basically. And they've built all of that out, and they're putting honey in there, nectar and honey. We may or may not see the queen. She's not using that one for babies, though. So again, we'll just put that one aside for now. All right, now I've got room to get the other frames out without squashing the babies. Wouldn't it be great if we saw the queen today, hey? I don't know if we will. All right, just quickly looking for the queen. No, I can't see her there. That's a drone. That's a boy. All right, so let's get rid of these bees. Okay, so the babies, they look much different to the honey. And so these ones here that are bigger, they're the boys called the drones. And then these ones here are the girls or the workers. There's one with pollen on her legs. And these ones here, they're cleaning out the cell. So the jobs they do, they become cleaners and then nurse bees and then builders and then undertakers and then guard bees. And most of their work is inside the hive. And then the final job they do is the foragers. So the ones that you see flying around outside, they're the old bees. All right, so now if you want to come in here, Jonathan, Down in there, the little white things, can you see those? They're called larvae. So they're baby bees that they're not ready to be capped yet. When they're ready to turn from the larvae into the bee, like a caterpillar into a butterfly, they have to transform. Then they get capped off. So they start off as an egg and then they grow as little larvae. And they get fed the bee bread, which is the pollen and nectar mixed together. Let's see if we can, I'll do another frame. So this was a newer frame. Again, I'm going to look quickly for the queen. I can't see her there though. Lots of drones. A nice healthy hive. Okay, so again we'll shake. So here's some more drone cells. These are the boys sticking out. A queen cell hangs downwards and looks like a gum nut. So these are more boys and these are more workers. They're the girls. And I can't see any eggs in there. Oh, here we go. All right, so can you see this one here? How it's hanging down to the ground? That's called a queen cup. So that potentially could turn into a swarm cell. And the other yellow stuff that's in there, yellow and orange, that's the pollen. And I still can't see any eggs. All right, so I'm just going to remove that one out there. I don't want to encourage them to swarm. How are we going for time, Joanne? Have I got time to do a couple more frames?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 11.
Okay, great. I'll do one more frame and then we'll put this back together.
Carmel, we had a question. For a flow hive with just one brood box, how long does it take to harvest honey? If I start in December in the Dandenong Ranges area.
Well, harvesting honey is, it's really about the nectar flow in the area. So they started in December last year or this year. There's some more pollen. Look, you've got nice yellow and orange pollen. There's another queen cell there hanging down. And this is full of white larvae. And I didn't even look to see whether the queen was on there. And here we've got some more drones hatching. So there's lots of stuff going on in the hive all the time this time of year.
They said December this year.
Oh, they're starting in December this year.
Yeah.
It really depends on what's in flower at the time. Really, if they're getting like a nuke, which is only 5 frames, so if you're just starting off, my main priority would be to actually make sure that the bees have enough honey for winter. And here in Victoria, you'll notice that this hive has 2 brood boxes. So it's got the 2 brood boxes and it's got the flow box on the top. The reason being is up north where they created the flow hive, honey flows. It's up near northern New South Wales and they have different temperatures up there and honey doesn't crystallise. But here in Victoria, our honey crystallises. So you can't leave the flow hive on in winter time. You have to take the flow hive off, otherwise the honey will crystallise inside the frames and then the only way to get it out is really to use hot water, which is a waste of honey. The other issue is if you take the queen excluder away and give that honey to the bees, if the queen can get up there, the size of the cells in a flow frame are the size of drones. So you can end up with boys all through the flow frames, which is what you don't want. So here in Victoria, what myself and a lot of others recommend is you have a 3-box system, not a 2-box system. And so what I do is in springtime to give the queen plenty of room to it doesn't stop swarming, but it slows down that process. She's got the 2 boxes to lay in, and so she's got plenty of room. She's not going to run out of room. And as I said, I took those 4 frames out and I put 4 fresh frames in the bottom. And so she's got the 2 brood boxes to move around in. Now, once we get to maybe halfway through January, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking the queen excluder and I'll be moving it down. So I'll shake all the bees down, make sure the queen's in the bottom box, and I'll be putting the queen excluder here. And then that will force this one to become just honey. And so then at pack down, at autumn time, when we get them ready for winter, I'll take the queen excluder away. And so then the bees have got their box of honey for winter and the brood box. And then come springtime, once they've eaten the honey out of here, then the queen's got the 2 boxes to lay in again. So then I know that I'm providing enough food for the bees for winter, and I know that the honey I get out of the flow box, that's my honey, and this is the honey for the bees. So that's why in Victoria I would recommend, if you do have a flow hive, I would get another super with some other regular frames and use it as a 3-box system rather than just a 2-box system.
Another question was, how long should I leave the nuc in the future position of beehive before transferring them to the beehive?
It's a nucleotide. So a nuke, look, if you want to leave it a day or 2, it really doesn't matter. You know, I'll take a nuke to someone's place and deliver it, and I'll put them in that day. But yeah, if you want to leave it there for 24 hours or 48 hours, then they get used to the flight path. It's about orientating themselves to their new position more than anything.
We had another question. How do you retrain a grumpy bee?
You don't. You re-queen. So as the queen gets older, the whole hive, once her pheromones start to fade, the whole hive will become grumpy. And sometimes it's also just genetic. So if they've come from a swarm, if they've been, feral bees for a while, it's about natural selection. So they need to be, in the wild, they need to be strong to survive. They don't have a keeper looking after them. So the genetics tend to revert back to more defensive bees. So the best thing you can do would be to introduce new genetics. So it would be about getting rid of the old queen and introducing a new queen to the hive. That would be the best way to do it. And that's what I've had to do to these other hives that I inherited, because you'd be walking around. As you can see, I've worked this hive with no gloves. I wouldn't work those hives without wearing gloves. They get too defensive. So, yeah. Another thing I wanted to show you, if you want to come down to their front door, see these bees with their bum in the air and they're fanning their wings? That's called washboarding. So if you can imagine at the airport, you've got the strip of lights on the runway and you've got the person with the flag waving in the air, directing the aeroplane where to land. Well, that's exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it with smell. So for the foragers that are out and about today, what these bees are saying is they're saying, hey guys, things have changed, our hive has been interrupted, but we're still here and this is the way to the front door. So they're directing the foragers to where to come in, and what they're sending out is the smell of the queen, the pheromone. So instead of lights and flags, it's the smell runway. So yeah, it's called washboarding. The way they communicate is quite fascinating. All right, let's set this box back up on the top here. So obviously I want to move the bees out the way. I don't really want to squash any. Some of them come out just at the wrong time. I have to remind myself that as careful as I am, it's about the health of the hive, and that unfortunately I can't always save every individual bee. All right. Oh, so that's about 30 kilos that I'm lifting there now. Do we have any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Could the bee's water source be very close to the hive? For example, 2 metres?
Look, yes, if your water source is close to the hive, that's fantastic. But you don't want it in front of the hive because, especially on rainy days, they will hold on to go to the toilet. And so when they come out the front of the hive, often that's where they will end up doing their poos. So bees won't tend to use water that's just directly out the front of their hive. You're better off having it to the side or behind the hive somewhere, not out the front.
Okay. And another question, how old do queens get before you need to get a new queen? So what's their lifespan?
Yeah, right. So generally they live for about 5 years. But after you can generally tell that their laying production starts to die down after about 3, and you'll certainly notice the gentleness of the hive will start to change. So look, commercial beekeepers, they might change every 1 to 2 years. As a hobbyist, I would recommend between 3 and 5. It's really personal choice. It really just depends on what you want out of your hive. Sometimes the bees will get rid of the queen themselves, and sometimes you can even see 2 queens working together. The old one's still hobbling around with her zimmerframe, and the new her daughter is actually wandering around with her. So they can get rid of the queen when they're ready. Are you guys going to be nice, or do I have to put my hat? I know I'm talking about the bees. Are you going to be nice? I don't want to have to put my helmet back on. Any other questions?
Do you recommend using exterior paint on the flow hive in Victoria?
Outdoor paint? Yes, and always paint just the outside of the hive. The bees will season the inside of the hive. Look, you can. This one needs more varnish. As you can see, the wood here, it will perish if it's not dealt with. So this did have varnish on it, and it really needs another coat. If you want to paint your hive multiple colours and put pretty pictures on it, you can do that. But an outdoor water-based exterior paint would be the way to go, or you can varnish it. Or there is a hive butter. What's his business is called Hive Skills, and he's created a hive butter, which is like a conditioner. So you can actually, and I've got some, and I keep meaning to do the lid here, is to recondition it. There's linseed oil. I think painting it probably going to. I'm putting my head back on. I think painting it's probably going to make it last the longest. If you're going to linseed oil it, you're going to need to upkeep it quite regularly, and the same with varnish. So I think they do look beautiful, but it's going to take more maintenance to look after the wood. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi Carmel, it's Renee here. As a beginner, what would you recommend, and where would you recommend to get the basic equipment to start with, please?
Yeah, sure. So I spoke earlier about the introduction to beekeeping talk that I have as a PDF. I have all of that information in there. Really, you want to decide what kind of hive you want. If you don't want to do the heavy lifting, you might want to consider a coffin hive or a top bar, which top bars are a bit trickier to use the frame, but you're working horizontally rather than vertically. There are several suppliers around Melbourne and Victoria. And again, in that document, I could rattle them all off now, but you won't remember them. So if you are interested in the Introduction to Beekeeping PDF, I'm most happy to share that. So if you want to email Joanna Iramu, so email the Iramu Community Centre, I will provide them with a PDF and they can send that out to you. And then you can read through that. Yeah, no problem. It tells you where you need to register, what rules you need to read, what kind of hives there are, where to get equipment, what jobs you're going to be doing as a beekeeper, what you can expect the bees to be doing over the course of a season. So it's all of that stuff in a nutshell right there for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Done a great job today. Well done.
Thanks. Nice to hear from you, Renee. Any other questions? Oh, I've filled them all up with information. Awesome.
Sorry, put myself on mute. That was great. We've had, I'd say, an acquaintance of your JSM Beekeeping. They've uploaded some documents. I'm not sure whether they could email them through to us because I'm not sure where the chat goes if people don't get to download it during the course of the session today. So if that could get emailed to the admin at Iramu address, that would be great. And then I've got it if people want to be able to get a copy of it.
If you want to email those through to Joanne, admin at Iramu, that'd be great.
That would be great. So, but look, thank you very much, Carmel, for today. That was fantastic. It was wonderful having a look inside the hive and learning about all the plants. I think I need to get a few more flowers that the bees like growing in the garden as well to sort of keep them happy as well. Now, if people are interested, Carmel and I were talking about doing a bee/insect hotel workshop coming up. We will finalise a date and time and let you know if you're interested in getting one of those built up so that you can have that in your house. So, but keep your eyes peeled for that one. Thank you, Carmel. Thank you, Jonathan. It's been fantastic to be able to have a look inside the bees.
And if I can just share, this is all I do. This is my only source of income is beekeeping. So I do offer mentoring. Oh, there we go. I got stung on the nose. No, don't, please, Gil. Sorry. All right, we're gone now. Sorry about that. That's from over there. I do offer beekeeping. Hold on. Let me just get the sting out of my eye. So if you are stung, here we go, a learning lesson. If you are stung, you need to scrape. See the sting there in my nose? Yeah? You need to just scrape with your fingernail. There we go. You don't want to squeeze it because that'll put more poison in. So just scrape with fingernails because the stinger has a little barb in it and it gets caught in your skin. And unfortunately, that bee's now going to die, which is really sad. But thank you for providing us with a lesson on how to remove stings. So cmghoneybee.com.au. I'm passionate about the environment. I've got local honey if you want some. I also make beeswax wraps, and I'm passionate about doing talks and education, and I offer mentoring to help get beekeepers started. And when we can run courses again and have groups of people face to face, I'll be running them again. So cmghoneybee.com.au is where you will find me personally. And thanks, Joanne, for asking me to do this today. I've also had a wonderful time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you once again for sharing your knowledge with us. And everyone, have a wonderful day out in this lovely sunshine. Enjoy yourselves. And if you're like me, you'll be in the garden getting some more veggies and plants in ready for the upcoming months. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll look forward to catching you the next time we have Carmel on. So thank you everyone. Bye.
Okay.
Look forward to it. Thanks very much. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmel.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.